You hit on this point. I just want to follow up on. So, when you study American history, I just wrote a article about American history. It's not terribly long to investigate. It's only 250 years. You can take it 50 years at a time. Black children have traditionally been denied their humanity, and in that they don't have a childhood. Yeah. They lose their innocence really early.
Yeah.
And I give you an example.
The last time I was on a pod, we spoke about that.
Brown v. Board of Education. There's always this famous photograph of the young girl in Arkansas, right? Yeah. Going to class, Ruby. Baby, right? And the adults are yelling at her, spitting at her. She's sitting in a classroom, and we look at putting our kids in those traumatic situations as progress. And that's very dangerous when you think about that. So think about, I can imagine there was a circumstance where that kid thought he was safe.
Yeah.
Was he an athlete?
Right.
Athlete,
player.
Good-looking kid, football player. But, we have a history of our kids not being safe.
Right.
And, I think it's terrible what's happened. And I think Marlon is right. As a parent, you want to, the sad reality of a parent is that you can't live for your children. Like they're in a world that's anti-Black. Like we live in an anti-Black world where the bodies are piling up. It's parasitic. And we get shocked. And I'm with you. I wasn't paying attention to it. One, I'm in court dealing with some other that I have to deal with. So I wasn't paying attention to it. But what's clear to me is that Black pain is commodified. And now you have to, where's the conversations about, that's not happening anymore? We're not going to allow that to happen anymore. I don't see that. Those aren't the conversations.
And that's a big problem. And, the story hits me from kind of a personal place. Not, of course, I don't know the family and it's so sad. Another young Black child, gone, and there's no sense of urgency about figuring it out. If Nolan Wells was an 18-year-old white kid, we would already know everything that transpired.
If he was white, the entire football team, everybody that's on that boat would have been arrested and interrogated.
This would be wrapped up. This would be wrapped up.
This would be different.
But also, it hits home for me because I have a 16-year-old son who goes to a predominantly white, high school in New York City, in the 90s somewhere. And selecting that school was hard for me because, to your point about, going to all Black schools my entire life, I didn't have my first Black teacher until high school, right? I didn't go to school with white kids ever, so now having my son in a space where a lot of times he's the only Black kid there. And then my son is a very, a popular kid, plays sports, charming, funny. People like to be around him. So, of course, now he has friends that take him to Knicks games, give him all these dope experiences. But then some of them ask your parents if for spring break you could come with us to France. Right. I'm sorry.
That's where you draw the line.
And that's where I draw the line. And it's crazy, that we have to feel that way, but we have to feel that way because look at this, the Nolan Wells situation, and I'm sure his parents are beating themselves up behind the scenes saying, maybe we shouldn't have let him go.
Right. But that strikes me as that kid probably has been comfortable. It looked like he has friends from many different places.
He's a football star. His parents are well-to-do. They live in a well-to-do community. Again, this concept of what does Black become in America?
There you go. Right. What's
progress? This is what progress looks like, right? Like his parents may have came from meager means. Now they're able to live in this community. Right. Their kids could go to this school. This feels like ascension. It feels like success.
That's what success looks like.
But I'm gonna tell you something that happened, and we was talking about the kids and the trips. I'm gonna tell you this happened. This happened this summer. So I took my kids to the Bahamas. So we on this big resort. I'm not gonna name the resort, but we on the resort, and the kids are doing their thing. We come home. I take my kids back to my ex-wife. My ex-wife texts me like a day later, flipping. Yo, how could you let that happen? I'm like, what are you talking about? Apparently, while we were in the Bahamas, my daughter was in the pool. When she comes out, like she was underwater, when she comes out from under the water, a white woman sitting there made monkey noises. My daughter never told me.
Because she didn't want you.
Because she didn't want me to wild
I know
out.
what you was going to do.
Right? She never told me. She goes home. I take her home to my ex-wife. She tells my ex-wife's like, what the is wrong with you? I'm like, yo, I didn't know that it happened. Had I known it would happen, I would have dealt with it. So I talked to my daughter. I'm like, baby, did that happen? She says, yeah, daddy, it happened. Well, why you ain't tell me? Because I was afraid what you might do. So when you talk about our black children not being given childhood, I lived that. My daughter's 10 years old, and she had to recompense in her mind, yo, this chick just violated me. I don't want to tell my father because he gonna tear this whole shit up.
And what could happen to my father
right, and what
once
could
he
happen
does
to
that?
my
She
father?
got to think on the level.
So she got to think like an adult.
Like to what you so my oldest son went to Trinity.
That's one of the schools that my son was going to go to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So from a young age. So one day he was wilding out in that school. Like I would get called every day to go pick him up because he would like pull the cot out. I'm not ready to go to sleep. Like he was. They didn't even know he can talk for like 9 months. Like he just
kept it.
I come to pick him up. They're like, "Yo, he can talk." I was like, "Yeah, I brought him here. He was talking. What are you talking about?" But one day I went to pick him up and he was standing in a circle. All the white kids were surrounding him and they were playing in his hair. And he catches me with eye contact and he starts duffing everybody out. Because I think subconsciously he knew that, yo, wait a minute. And after that, I was like, yo, I'm taking him out of here.
Yeah.
So that same kid goes to a charter school very close by here, very popular charter school that started out with black kids because, you know, they get the black kids from the hood to get the charter and then the gentrified parents come and then it changes the dynamics of the school.
Right.
He was in the school and in 4th grade, they had an exercise on slavery. And then the exercise was you had pro-slavery kids and anti-slavery kids. He was like, yo, I'm not doing that. And he's like, no, but you can be the anti-slavery. He's like, I know what I can be.
Why would they even have that exercise?
Why do we, because why, he's like, yo, why do we have to debate something that we know shouldn't have happened?
Everyone knows it's wrong.
Yes.
Wrong.
Why would you have a pro-slavery side?
Yo.
Wow.
And so he was livid about it. He we were talking about it in the car. I went in the pharmacy right on Myrtle. I come back and he had took my cell phone and wrote why he thought that was wrong. And it really started, as a parent, like, yo, parent is a beautiful thing, but it's also a scary thing to be a parent.
Scary.
It is.
You
So
realize,
scary.
you put your kids, you got to be mindful of where you put your kids and what you cultivate them to respond
And
to.
so I say all the time, I lived a very sheltered childhood. But the reason why it was sheltered is because I was cloaked in blackness for as humanly long as humanly possible before my parents had to let me out into the world. And then my first stop was Morgan State University.